We are Tailgate Talk. Welcome into the show. I'm Matt Thomas. With me, as always, we've got Whinney, Trent Williams, and Kyle Schumann. Coming to you a little bit later this week, we've got some travel that we're trying to work around, but we're here to recap it was so long ago, I don't even remember the score. What was it, 38-16? Or was that the score? Yeah, that was the score. Close
35.
enough.
Close
35-16, close enough. Against Michigan State. So since Trent's the one that made us wait so long and made me forget the score, he can kick off thoughts of how he thought this one went down.
Spots is a good way because I'm probably going to be pretty spotty on the hotel Wi-Fi coming to you from the great state of Texas on travel for work. Maybe, possibly, we'll be here in a few weeks for at Jerry World with Koko.
It's actually Trent actually got the media pass ready to go already. So he's getting our Tailgate Talk media pass for the Cotton Bowl when we go to it.
He's scouting for the team.
Well, my company does actually have a suite at Jerry World for the Cowboys game, so maybe they get it for the Cotton Bowl too.
Well, let's hope we don't go to that one. But that's after we talk about Michigan State.
It'll be a cheaper flight, that's for sure.
Yeah. If you see Jerry, tell him I said go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds.
Your dad's paying for it anyway, Koko. What are you worried about? So, Trent, thoughts on the game? Go.
It was another one of those games similar to other ones where it was like there was a point in time where the scoreboard was close. I personally never felt like the game was out of hand, though. Like, I always felt we were going to win that game, even though at one time, if you looked at the scoreboard, it was a really tight game. Pretty late on in the second half, too.
Yeah, honestly, my God, this game feels like it was a lifetime ago. It doesn't feel like it was literally just like 3 days ago. But it felt like it was full circle, like going back to the games in September, how they felt, where it was, you have those lulls, it's a little rocky, but then by the end we pull it out. But I mean, it was a good win. I mean, we knew Michigan State was going to give us a bit of a challenge, so good way to end the season.
Yeah, I just felt like those two missed field goals. Like you're looking at the scoreboard and we're only up, one possession, and think to yourself, oh, we could be up, 6 points here, and then making a bigger lead. Because like when Michigan State scored that touchdown in the second half and brought into one possession, you're like, it feels like we're up way more than we should be right now. But as Matt said, it's like a full circle game where second half we really opened it up and our defense showed out and we squared up and we did a great job.
Yeah. I took Michigan State to cover, and when it was 21-16, like I thought it was a lock that Michigan State was going to cover that game. I'm sure you guys that took Penn State to cover probably weren't feeling that great.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
it was coming. And Sean, we trust.
With Koko in my ear every single play.
When we scored our last touchdown there, I was like, okay, let's stop here. Let's put the brakes on, because not only did we cover, the under also hit, which I took. So I'm like, okay, everyone stop doing what they're doing, because if they kicked the field goal, the over would have hit. So
Kyle and I were shouting opposing opinions at the end there. He wanted them obviously to go under, and I wanted them to go over. But kind of what you guys said overall, I just felt like it was a game that you didn't really think we were going to lose at any point, but it was more towards like how we experienced some of the games earlier in the season. It was just kind of like we were climbing through it, and then we really kind of put the pedal to the metal down at the very end of the fourth there. But there was moments where it was kind of like, just dragging along and you wanted to see more, but of course
not. I mean, I think the thing that was awesome to see, and we've seen this at other points throughout the year, it's like when we really needed a score the most, I feel like we've gotten it. And with the Michigan State game, when they did go down, it was 21-16 there. We come out and it was an 11-play, 75-yard drive. So to put a score right back up.
Well, I can think of two games where we needed scores and we didn't get them. But
okay. I didn't say every game. I said there was other games.
Just throwing it out there. But yeah,
like Kyle said too. You
are the pessimistic guy. You are the pessimistic one.
I just feel like Matt wakes up and someone's there just peeing his Cheerios every single morning.
Matt wakes up and thinks like, what can I do to make myself miserable today?
Well, can never be disappointed then. And honestly, with friends like you guys, do you blame me for being miserable all the time? But let's get back to the Penn State football. That drive was nice. Clifford did a really good job on that drive. I think obviously he did a good job the entire game, but some of the conversions he made, that pass to Strange on third, was that, it might have been first down, where it was the Clifford special. If he throws it up towards his chest, it's a pick six. But since he's good at throwing it in the dirt, it's a first down, keep the sticks going. And then the screen to Singleton on fourth down. That's one of those plays where he had to throw it so far from one hash to the sideline where it's like, no, 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 no. And then Singleton scores. It's like, yes. So
just talking about that Strange catch for a second. I know that there were some people near us where we were sitting. We're kind of like, oh, great throw, Clifford. But honestly, I mean, whether he had intended to do it or not, I actually thought it was a great throw because the I don't know if it was linebacker or some sort of DB coming was going to take Strange's head off if he wouldn't have actually got down right there. So thought it actually worked out.
It was the Clifford special.
Yeah.
We've seen 6 years of that.
Yeah, but the real quarterback was Keandre Lambert-Smith with a QBR of 100 against Michigan State. What a solid performance by him.
Did you see what Clifford told him after that? He said in the post game, what Clifford told him, got Drew on my ass. I don't need you two now. So that was an awesome play. That was an awesome play. Perfectly executed. They even I heard afterwards, they said that they had never practiced at full speed. So that the first time they did it full speed was the touchdown play. So it's cool. Let's just keep it going with the passing game. I mean, can you really ask for a better, final home game for Sean Clifford? 19 to 24, 202 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 incompletions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, when you go first.
I was just going to say, I think you and I are going to say the same thing. I'm sold that Clifford watches the podcast now because I think Koko's Sportsbook had it at 2.5 passing touchdowns, and Clifford obviously performed.
I mean, hey, it was his best. It was his best game of the year. So I can't.
He listened. He was like, Kyle, I know he gave me a lot of flack this year, but I'm gonna hit this over just for you. So I respect it. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, like picking against Penn State in any of it's a win-win because like when I pick Michigan State to cover, if they cover, it's like, as long as we still win, it's like, I told you they cover and we got the win. And if they don't cover, I'm happy because it's we played well enough to cover.
That's a Matt Thomas move there. You're taking
I'm not doing it intentionally. Like that's not why I took it. But same with the touchdowns. It's like,
well, no, there's a difference when Matt
I'm glad to be wrong.
There's a difference when Matt doesn't think we're gonna win. He doesn't show up to the game. That's different than that's different than Trent just picking us to not cover and showing up to the game. There's a big difference.
Well, some of us can't just skip games to study for the CPA exam. So
good excuse.
Took you long.
Oh, wait, Matt.
You needed plenty of study time.
Real quick. Stop. Here we go.
Real quick. For the listeners here, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I was at 8 games this year, and you finished at 7. Correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Congratulations, Koko.
I just question Matt's commitment to the Penn State program in general. I think Trent reiterated that in our preseason preview with skipping the Ohio State game. So Matt has no commitment to the program.
Do you want to do a little competition where we rattle off names of players and Koko gets to like 5 and then
Matt's just compensating. Oh, I know this Pro Football Focus stat that like one person knows. It's just a compensation factor. He just compensates.
Hey, on a lighter note, how about Whinney?
Let him have it.
Hey, on a lighter note, how about Whinney showing?
I mean, I've had every season for the last like decade, so I'll let him get it.
That.
Let's give. I mean, I can. So you're forgetting they only went to mobile ticketing last year, so I've literally got ticket stubs. So, but good job, Whinney. Congratulations on going to more than 4 games. You beat the over by October. You did it.
Yeah, that was quite the climb.
Kyle, you'll probably get mad again next year because he'll probably have a wedding or something and won't be able to go to Illinois with us.
Another fall wedding here, or my dog's sick, or just some excuse about to come up with another game.
Responsibilities. Not everyone can be a single
we're
accountant living in York, Pennsylvania.
We're gonna have a count
Sorry,
going. So we're having since the start of this podcast. We'll have a count going for every season. How many games I go to versus Matt, and we're just gonna keep a running total.
Got a lot of catch up to do. So all right, we're getting back to the game. One other note on Clifford. That's
a good politician right there, pivoting right away. Let's ignore this question.
Let it go.
All right, Matt, continue. Come on.
Koko doesn't have much in his life, so let's just let him have this one.
I was
So,
gonna say you gotta let him have this. He waited a full season. He traveled to Auburn just to get that over on you. All right,
Yeah.
let him have it.
Trent's making something on the CNC mill when he gets back to Pottsville, I heard.
It's just one has commitment, one doesn't. So let's just go on with the podcast.
eh.
No, I ain't recording.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Clifford, first touchdown pass of his career was our first pass of his Penn State career was a touchdown pass. The Pitt game, Brandon Polk. I was at that game, so was Koko. So in the pouring rain, Koko wanted to leave early, but nothing. Never mind. And then his last touchdown pass or last pass to Beaver Stadium was also a touchdown pass. So it's kind of full circle. We'll see what the bowl game brings for him. But I mean, he's just people forget in all this that he's a likable guy. So
Yes,
it's good. It's good for him to go out like that because he deserves it after people like Koko criticizing him all year.
yeah, and both those passes were decent
Bombs.
length.
Yeah.
They were
They're-
not like 5-yard little pitch and catch touchdown passes.
34 yards in 2018, 35 yards on Saturday.
Yep.
Can we?
Yeah,
give
no,
some
I mean,
props
he-
to Tom- Oh, sorry, Trent.
No, I was just gonna say, like Matt said, he always says the right thing, even afterwards. We've talked about it a little bit, like going into senior day, but he just represented the program well in his time. Whether you like his performance on the field, agreed or disagreed with that, that's fine. I mean, it's what we do as fans, but I don't think anyone could take away what the time and commitment he put into this program.
Yeah, he never did anything off the field to really give Penn State a bad name at all. So
No, and I mean, let's hopefully go out there and capitalize it with a big bowl game here. Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, even Cotton Bowl. Any New Year's Six game, if he caps it off, 10-2 regular season capped off with a New Year's Six bowl win. I mean, what a great way for him to go out the door. And in a way, I mean, people are going to still hate, but it'll quiet a lot of the haters.
I know Matt's more toned in than all of us here for the bowl game perspective. It's guaranteed that we're not going to. This is very bad English. We're not going to not a New Year's Six bowl, right? We're guaranteed to go to New Year's Six bowl at this point.
we're not.
Well, let's finish the game recap and then I can process what you just said and I can get you an answer in a few minutes. But one other
Koko translator is here if you need him.
Yeah, it's an option on Google Translate. You can go from Koko to English or whatever.
One more thing on Clifford. I might try to dive into this a little bit more over the coming weeks when we have time. But so now everyone kind of looks at the stats that he's now the all-time program record lead, like passing yards, touchdowns, all that kind of stuff, and everyone's like, oh, he's here for 4 years, played for 4 years, whatever. Like he's also now the all-time leader in completion percentage. So for the fans that have the notion of he's just this not good quarterback, all that kind of stuff, like if that was true, 4 years would bring that down. So like it's just kind of like this misnomer that's just based on how these last couple of years have played out. When you look at it, it's really the tools that he had around him. Like 2019, good running game, good receivers, win 10 games, win 11 games, 2022, same thing,
Yeah, and I think it's just natural. When you have a guy that's been on campus for 6 years, it feels like 40 years. It's just people get tiresome of seeing the same face. It feels like, and we talked about this earlier in the season, but the fact that you're here 6 years means that you aren't good enough to move on to the pros. So it is that awkward relationship. At the end of the day, I think that's why it is so polarizing. Like you do have a decent part of the fan base that does support Clifford and did support him still starting this year through the end of the season. And then you have honestly what I think is a smaller minority that's just a lot more vocal on the Drew Lar side.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's a good fan club. We meet on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, that's why we had to push back the episode from Tuesday to Wednesday. But and it's also with the team struggles, you're going to blame the head coach, you're going to blame the quarterback. So yeah, it is what it is. But all right, where to next? Do you want to keep on the offensive side?
No,
Go to the defensive side. All right, go ahead.
again,
All right.
our defense. I mean, I'll say this game there was a few frustrating plays, and we've had that where it's 3rd and long, or we have them what feels like stop, and they convert a big play across the middle. It's frustrating at times, but if you look at the performance holistically, another stellar performance by the defense, another really good performance by the young guys. A lot to look forward to. Next year, we'll talk about some of that, next year in future episodes, and I'm sure a little today with some of the announcements that were made. But I just don't think you could have asked much more from the defense pretty much all season, except for the Michigan game. I mean, that was really the one that was an outlier.
I think it's another game that we've been saying this for like the past few weeks, that you look at the stat sheet, very, very spread out in terms of tackles. And our guy Abdul Carter had another 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, just tearing it up as usual. And so I think it was just another status quo for the defense, spreading around some interceptions here and there. And yeah, it was good all around.
Yeah. Those the catches that you pointed out, Trent, it's one of those where in the game it feels like it's so much more than it actually was. When you look at the stats afterwards, they went 4 for 10 on contested catches. So like in the game, it felt like literally every time they threw the ball up, they were coming down with it and moving it on. But like to that end, Kalen King played really, really well. 4 tackles, the interception. He now is tied for the lead in the country in pass breakups. Like Koko said, Abdul Carter. So I'm sure you all have heard this stat by now, but so he has 6.5 sacks this year in 11 games because he got ejected at Purdue. That's the same amount of sacks that Micah Parsons had in 2 seasons at Penn State. Like, that's crazy. That gets you really excited for what the next couple of years could look like.
Yeah, I mean, even just Manny Diaz too, I think is exciting this year. And I think he like the players, I think I said last week, they just feel like they're buying in more and more every week. So it was good to see that. He just finished strong for this season as well, from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
Can I go back to Abdul real quick? For being a true freshman and being second on the team in total tackles for the year, it's pretty remarkable as a true freshman.
Yeah. And he didn't get as much playing time in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Certainly not as much as we're seeing right now. He's just a fun player to watch. He's the one that your eyes just are attracted to out there. His closing speed, his size, his burst of energy to the ball. He's very Micah Parsons like in that like your eyes are just drawn to him. He's hard not to watch. He's one of the few players that would, draw your eye away from the ball because you're following him instead of the ball. And oftentimes wherever the ball is, he is. So
and like
and not to mention, it almost feels like even if you don't see it right away, you hear it. Because I mean, when he hits, man, he lays the wood. He's not a light hitter by any sense.
Like Trent said, we're going to preview next year in a future episode, but it's Abdul for next year. Defenses, this is their first year seeing him, so they'll be eyeing him up next year. Just give different players to chance to step up when he's getting double teamed on some plays or whatever. But it's just exciting to see.
Yeah. And I really like what I've been seeing out of Kobe King lately. I think he's progressed well. Speed is still, he's still a little slow in the speed. Same with Elston. Like that's, they're comparable in that regard. But I think Kobe King has, I think if he picks up some speed in this offseason, which I'm sure he will, I think he's going to be a force to reckon with out there also.
Yeah, that linebacker room could be pretty good because you got some even younger guys in there that could be making a difference. But all right, we've gone like 20 minutes on this game. Do we want to kind of just move on? Because like I said, it feels like this game took place like 3 weeks ago because there's so much that's happened between Saturday and now. So
with it.
Yeah, let's start with the bad news. Literally, as we were getting ready to come on here, Joey Porter Jr. announced that he is going to forgo the bowl game, go to the NFL. Bad in that it's bad for us because we'd like him to stay. I mean,
are you surprised though?
No.
I would say let's start with the expected news. It's bad, yes, but
sad more.
It's
sad.
Expected.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like he's yes, it's it'd be great to see him back next year for this quote unquote great team we're gonna have, but like he's gonna be a first round draft pick. He's gonna be a lockdown corner in the NFL. Like, listen, buddy, you put your heart and soul in this program for the past few years. Go make your money.
I was confident he was going. I think everyone was. I think the bigger thing was, now that we're in a New Year's Six bowl game, was he going to, play his last hurrah in the bowl game? And he answered that already. No, he's foregoing the bowl game, which I think that's the disappointing part. It's a big argument. You could understand the money that's on the line, but I think the counter argument is always like, well, why do you play game number 12 then? Why do you play game number 11? Like where do you draw the line, and what makes that bowl game any different from this past weekend in Beaver Stadium?
And that's gonna be a big thing. That's gonna be a big thing when like the playoff expansion goes to 12 teams, where like if I feel like more players will be not opting out anymore because you have the chance to run the table, go win a national championship. But like again, like even if it's a New Year's Six bowl game, like I'm not faulting him for skipping. I mean, it's just one of those things.
No, I would never fault a player. Like, I'm never gonna sit there and be, angry at a player. I get it. Like, it's hard until you're in those shoes. You can't ever say what you would do, because it's easy to sit here and say like, "Oh, I would play." But when you have people talking in your ear, and what the risk you're putting up there and the money that's going to be coming in, I'm sure it's a lot harder decision to make than we make it seem on the surface.
Exactly.
But in terms of like, with the Rose Bowl on the table, the Orange Bowl on the table, you're looking at playing some good teams in a good bowl. I just thought there was a chance. I could Cotton Bowl, if we're going to play a Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, that definitely loses a lot of its luster. But I mean, Clemson in the Orange Bowl, or like maybe like USC in the Rose Bowl.
I feel like he can't really improve much more of his stock in one game. I mean, it's going to come now in like the draft combine and that kind of stuff. He may move up or down a few spots, but
it has nothing to do with improving. It's more so
just being more last hurrah.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing to do with that. It's more so like you came to this far with this team. It would be phenomenal to cap this season off with 11 wins and a New Year's Six win.
And I could understand him not wanting to play either, especially just coming off of abdominal surgery. Like, that's a hard thing to do. The only thing is, he played a little bit last week, only played 11 snaps. Like, it's clear now that was just to get his last fill in Beaver Stadium, but it, kind of filled you with a little bit of hope that, he might play that game. Maybe he wants to come back, like, especially with some of the other news we got this week so far. So that's the disappointing side.
I can see why that, like, he didn't make that announcement like right after the Michigan State game, because like Trent said, maybe because we are fighting for a Rose Bowl, New Year's Six bowl, whatever. So that probably went to his mind a little bit. Give it a few days after the game, talk with his family, coaches, whatever, and make that decision.
He was probably just waiting for Tailgate Talk to break the news.
Do you guys think, I mean, we've been saying it, I think earlier in the season, we even mentioned it just with players not participating in the bowls. Do you think there's any way that college football can actually entice these guys to participate more? Maybe even with the NIL now? I don't want to say like withhold their money, but I know they're going to the NFL too, where they're going to make a lot of money either way. So,
yeah, I think it's just a matter. 12-team playoff is definitely going to do it. I mean, if we're playing in a playoff game against Clemson in Beaver Stadium, he's
100% playing, yeah.
Right, mm-hmm. Right. So I think that's one way to do it. That being said, because at this point, I mean, if a player is going to opt out of a bowl game, the other bowls are going to become even less of a notorious thing now with the 12-team playoff expansion. But if players are going to opt out of that, the 12-team playoff expansion isn't going to make a difference in that.
Like you said, trying to feel like the competitive nature of these players, once that 12-team playoff expands, like you're not going to be opting out because you have a chance to win a national title. But if you're going to go playing like the Cheez-It Bowl against some random team, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
Why for Joey Porter, are you going to risk getting injured if you're maybe not even 100% after having abdominal surgery or whatever? Like, it's not worth it.
All right. Well, let's get to
positive.
Positive vibes only.
Olu coming back 2023.
Big shock.
Best news of the week.
Mm-hmm.
It was truly shocking. Like, I mean, it wasn't there was some words out there that, some articles saying he might come back and that some reasons why he might. And Matt's even talked about it before on some reasons he might consider coming back. But I think deep down we all thought he was gone. Like, I think it was more
Yeah.
just wishful thinking, like reasons he might come back. And when he announced that, like, and when they put out those official messages,
It's like,
at
oh man.
first glance, it's like, oh, he's gone. And then you start reading it and it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
What? And then it's like,
It's
oh my gosh, that's to say he's staying. Am I reading this right? Like,
yeah, it's always jump to the last paragraph first and then fill it out from there. But yeah, I mean, like on one hand, practically you can see it because he's only started 9 games. He's only played in 18 in college. He's 19 years old. He's going to be 20, I think, in a couple of weeks. So like there's all that factors in, but at the same time, top 10 draft pick potentially the first offensive lineman off the board. Like, I mean, that's a hard thing to turn away.
I think, Matt, just like what you said, he only played in 9 games. I think like, if looking at the NFL draft, if you get top 10 pick money compared to bottom first round, like there's a big difference there. And I think, like you said, he only played in 9 games. Fine to just trade for one more year. Now you're in the weight room, another year of being the best O lineman at Penn State, going up against Michigan, Ohio State, these bigger programs. He can be a lottery pick next year. There's no doubt in my mind.
So do you guys feel, and this is speculation, but do you think there was any NIL in play here that made that decision a little easier for a guy like him? I mean, I know they have their insurance policies and all that good stuff, but
wouldn't shock me.
I mean, probably. Like, I think from what I've heard, academics are important to him too. Like, basically, from what I heard, Franklin and the coaching staff like had that meeting with them. Like, I think he touched on it a couple weeks in a press conference, like after the Ohio State game, and pretty much just laid out all the information in front of him and basically told him that you have to go. Like, everything points to you going. So if NIL was really a factor, it was probably a small factor, I would imagine.
I think maybe one thing is like these guys are these players that have the eligibility to come back next year. They know that we can be something special next year. So I think all these players that have NFL aspirations, they can be like, you know what, we can go make our money next year. We can do something special this year and make our names even bigger. So if they want to do the draft, like I've been saying, be that guy. Everyone's watching you. Penn State starts off 8-0 next year. Everyone's watching Penn State. It's just one of those things where you got something special with your teammates that you only have for 3-4 years.
So this is going to be my last call question, but I think it's a good time to ask it, just because it's fitting with what Kyle's saying. I mean, do you guys think that, I mean, to a degree, I mean, obviously the defense seems sound, right? That's great, but is there just a strong belief even in Drew Allar? I know I mentioned it before, but I mean, for you to kind of turn all that down and say, okay, I'm going to go with this young quarterback. And I mean, I just think that there's got to be a lot of belief in that. I mean, maybe that'll say too, if we see guys like Strange and Parker Washington decide to stay as well, that there might be a lot of belief in the team, like Kyle's saying.
I mean, players aren't dumb, right? Mm-hmm. That the optimism, the talent, the young talent that's out there that we are so excited about, they see it too. Probably way more than we do, actually. They're seeing young guys, in practice every day and what their abilities and capabilities are. So I would say it's definitely a factor. Like, he believes this team truly could be something special. If we're a class full of seniors and it's looking like next year we're going to tank till we rebuild, it's a rebuilding year, I don't see how he doesn't jump. But I think it's a mixture of that, like, the potential that this team has, the bond that he has with this team. And then it sounds like Matt said academics to his family. So it sounds like his family's input into this was a huge factor, and that his family probably leaned towards him staying. So at the end of the day, it's all just what people think. Only Olu's the guy that could tell you why he stayed, but I'm sure it's a mixture of a few things.
Let's talk about how stacked that this offensive line is going to be next year. I mean, we have the chance to return all 5 starters. I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure Juice could come back. Like, he was honored at senior day, but he still has the COVID year that he could flex if he wanted to. I doubt he will, but still probably 4 or 5 starters. Bryce Effner could come back. That's a key slot fill. You have Drew Shelton, who really came on these last couple of games as a true freshman. The line as a whole struggled a little bit on Saturday, but overall he's been really good. JB Nelson, Big Ione, and then you have the best offensive lineman in the country coming in the class of 2023.
We have like two of the top, like I think 10 O linemen coming in next year, because we have that guy from Wyoming coming in too.
Williams and Birchmeyer.
And add that what you just said, Matt, to the running backs, which are proven running backs at this point, right? I mean, the running backs are the young position that we don't have to speculate. Like, Drew Alar, we still do have to speculate. We don't know for sure what Drew's going to look like. We do know what these running backs look like. And then, you do have Drew Alar, a huge prospect, a insanely talented guy sitting behind that offensive line. It's going to be the first time. I mean, I would say for many, many years, our offensive line was bad. Like, it was bad, atrociously bad. And this year, and we've been trending in the right direction. I'd argue this year it was manageable, but trending towards good. But I mean, as with the injuries, it went back to manageable. It wasn't a great offensive line. It wasn't a bad offensive line. It was a manageable offensive line. I think next year might be the first year we could say it's a good offensive line.
The only thing about Juice that I'm not like, I want him to come back, but I think one thing that NFL scouts are happy about is he can play all three of the interior line positions, which is very versatile, and that's scouts look at that stuff. So that's one thing that he may be able to get a higher grade than if he was just a center or just a guard or something like that. So again, all these guys have multiple considerations, but the biggest thing was Olu. That may affect Parker Washington's decision. Like, wow, Olu's coming back. We can really run this back, or whatever.
Agreed.
So yeah, let me ask one more thing before we go to some of the bowl stuff. So the transfer portal opens up next week on the 5th. We already know that Christian Veillere is going to go, which is not surprising.
Expected.
Yeah. Everything that we've heard is that this portal season is going to be crazy because it's this confluence of the transfer portal coming in at full steam, NIL coming in at full steam. Are you a little bit worried about any potential, shockers? Like, I've even heard a lot of, there are going to be guys that have no intention of leaving that just hop into the portal to see, kind of get a better NIL deals, test the waters a little bit and then come back. Like,
I don't see that for this team. One, I think Franklin has done a good job of keeping key players that we cannot afford to leave out of the portal. Like, we've had some bigger name players enter the transfer portal. I don't think we've had anyone critical that it's like we cannot afford to lose them. So that's one thing. And then two, I think that optimism plays into it, right? I mean, why would you want to leave this team right now when, I mean, the trajectory has just been up?
The only thing is I can see a little domino effect if, let's say, if Brett Strays decides to stay. Tyler Warren there, you're behind Theo Johnson. I know Tyler Warren gets his catches and everything like that, but let's be honest, Tyler Warren can probably be a starter at numerous other.
I know what you're saying, but I think we do such a great job, just like we do with the running backs. They all play.
I'm not saying I don't think he would leave. I'm just saying that would definitely factor into the decision.
Exactly. No, it's a great point you make. Like, there are some stacked positions like that, but I think we do a really good job of keeping everyone happy. Like, and we talked about this with Singleton and Katron. It's like both of those guys get equal touches and they both make the most of it. Like, they both seem incredibly happy. There's not, and honestly, it could be a good thing too. Like, maybe it's nice to not have all the weight on your shoulders as the running back and being able to split that with another running back. The tight ends, I mean, we could, if you threw a top 10 play list together, I think all three of our tight ends have to be on at least once. I mean,
Tyler Warren's catch from this past weekend was fantastic.
They've all had big plays and big moments, big games at crucial times. Like, all three of them have been great. And I think that's why there's definitely more risk there, because maybe they do aspire to be, that one singular stud on a team. But I just think we've done such a great job getting them mixed in many positions that I think that reduces that risk a little bit.
Well, let's just hope
And-
that Ryan Day doesn't come calling for Drew Lar and
All
bring
right,
him back
so-
home.
Can I real quick? 'Cause
on-
it was part of my. This is going to be my last call question, but it's kind of like the flip of what Matt asked. Instead of players going
Yes.
out, my question was going to be, what position do you guys want to see us go after the transfer portal to bring in? Like maybe
It's
Receiver.
everyone.
Sure.
It's receiver. Everyone.
And-
Even if
Yeah,
Parker
I have a
comes
different-
back,
I have a different
receiver.
take. Mine would be like interior D line because like I think PJ's going to be
The-
going. I think with Michigan being us in the run game, I think we got physical a little bit on the O line was in some aspects of our run game, like against Michigan, bigger offensive line. I think if we just solidify that part of our defense, we'll be all right.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and it's not that that's not a need, right? I mean, we don't have to sit here and say it's not like there's a rule.
No,
You can
our
only
run
pick
defense
one-
was still great this year. But I feel like
Yeah,
if we
but it's not like there's a rule that you could like only one position you could choose out of the portal, which
No.
one's going to be like we could go after many, and I agree that's a strength. But I mean, we just talked about this line. We talked about Alar coming in at quarterback. We talked about these running backs and what they've done, and then at receiver, it's like
talk about the tight ends. We don't talk about the receivers. So.
we did talk about the tight ends, and I think that's where if we get. Not that our receivers are going to be bad next year. They're not going to be bad, but they're just, I don't feel like they're going to be on the same level as every other position group on the offense. And if you fill that piece of the puzzle.
we literally, oh, sorry, Matt, you can go.
We literally just need someone that can take the top off.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Parker, if he comes back, he's our reception guy. He's our ball control guy. Like a guy that can do a 10-yard dig route like he tore up against Ohio State. But again, like Matt said, big guy over the top, big deep post route, stuff like that. Which
and that can be Keandre Lambert-Smith. Like he just hasn't been consistent enough.
Well,
with it
he's
like
no, probably not because he's our backup quarterback next year.
It could be Wallace, arguably. I mean, he had some deep catches down the sideline in a couple games.
Yeah, true. Like it's just consistency with some of these young guys. Like the talent's there, but if you're looking for an immediate impact, like that's where you can make it.
Again, it's
like,
the talent of our freshman wide receiver, Amari Evans, Caden Walls, like these guys. We'll see what they're made of more next year.
And just one other thing with that.
Notice that he looked up the freshman wide receivers because he didn't know that one time.
Yeah, you can tell when he's reading, which I'm about to read here. So we're talking about receivers.
I knew Amari Evans. He did well for us this year when he was in there.
But it's been a huge topic on the Penn State Twitter world with the Oregon wide receiver entering the transfer portal, Dante Thornton Jr. He was once committed to us. He's the top 75 player of the 2021 class.
Bring him back.
There was
Come home.
A lot of talk. He's from Maryland. He's from Baltimore. So that we for that Maryland game, we talked about how we dominate the state of Maryland. Let's bring him in and add him to that billboard down there of another a great Penn State player from the state of Maryland.
Come on home.
Question for you guys too. I mean, do you think some of it too? I mean, Clifford and Parker have obviously had a good connection just from being here the longest, right? Or some longer. I shouldn't say that because of Tinsley. But where was I going to go with this? Oh, Wallace. I mean, do you think that Alar and Wallace will maybe connect more just because younger guys, they're probably maybe throwing to each other more at practice? Like, I never knew if Clifford maybe got fixated on certain guys and missed, times to throw to other guys that were open just because he's looking. He's like, Parker's my guy. I know Parker. I'm going to throw it to him. I mean, do you think that maybe with Alar in there, we'll see Wallace shine more? Or we'll see another young guy shine more just because maybe even Alar's more familiar with them, yet alone their abilities too?
Yeah. Clifford's definitely one of his weaknesses was vision.
Fixated.
Like, and it wasn't, I don't think it was much fixated to a singular guy, like as in a singular like person that he always went to that person. It was more just like once he got his eyes on someone, whether any of the receivers, they didn't leave him. And oftentimes that resulted in, he's fixed on a receiver cutting across the middle 5 yards in front of him. Meanwhile, there's a wide open Keandre Lambert-Smith running down the sideline. And I think that's, a struggle of his. I do think Alar will have better vision for sure, especially as he progresses. I mean, this is going to be a huge offseason for him and his progression.
Yeah, and I mean, not to belittle the transfer portal or saying that our receiver that we couldn't use another receiver in the group. I'm just thinking maybe some of these young guys we just haven't seen a lot potentially just because when they get in there, maybe Clifford's fixated on somebody else for that game.
I mean,
you're saying.
and you got a receiver is a position, it's not like tight end where there's typically one on the field at a time. You have multiple receivers out there at a time, and they do come in and out a lot more than some other positions.
We did use multiple tight ends on the field.
I was gonna say this year we used more tight ends than wide receivers.
So maybe my point's being actually thrown out the window. So we'll move on then.
I wouldn't be surprised if with the defense we run, if more like D ends or linebackers want to come and play for Manny Diaz in that aggressive defense and showcase hey, if you can beat if you're a DN and how much we rotate in these players, showcase how well you can rush the passer and see if that attracts anybody. I wouldn't be surprised about that either.
Yeah. The only thing is we'll have to see with Manny because his name's being circulated for that FAU job, so South Florida job too.
Does he want to take FAU?
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, I don't know, but just gotta keep an eye on what happens. So, all right, we are moving on. We are gonna hit on Koko's question from before on whether or not we're not going to a not New Year's Six game. So
very well worded.
I mean,
like a poetry.
Very good. With coming in at number 8 in the rankings, I think we're pretty much locked into a New Year's Six. So that's going to be the Cotton Bowl, more or less. That's the floor. The at-large bid, with Tennessee and Alabama ahead of us, they could probably get picked off to the Orange Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, respectively. The only thing is, and it goes back to all of this, how hard it is to figure out. Apparently now the bowls are just surprise, we can actually pick anybody we want. So the Orange Bowl could potentially cut a deal. We could talk about it a little bit more. I'll pause to get your thoughts, but now it's looking like the Rose Bowl could potentially be looking to take a team that isn't Ohio State. So
yeah, I think Rose Bowl is still a really great shot for 2 reasons. One, with Ohio State sitting there at 5, now that that's come out, there's a really good chance Ohio State still makes the playoffs. If, a USC goes down this week or TCU goes down, I think either of those, you never know with the committee. And they do have these, we do talk about an SEC bias, but I feel like Ohio State's on that same boat with the committee in terms of a bias. So, and hey, this year I'm all for it because it would just mean good things for us. So I think, you have that where it's then it's clear and obvious both of those made the playoffs. We're in the Rose Bowl. But then Matt just mentioned the Rose Bowl pretty much came out and said, if there's a cluster of teams and if the top Big Ten team has made the playoffs, i.e. Michigan in this case, and there's a cluster behind them, Penn State and Ohio State, not too far apart, separated in rankings, then they could choose which team they want based on a variety of things.
Even if those teams played head-to-head.
Yeah, one of those being the last time they played, and Ohio State was just in the Rose Bowl last year. So, Herb Street made the point that he feels that they wouldn't put Ohio State in the Rose Bowl again because, you think about it, right? It is a destination for fans. It is a very costly thing to travel to one of these bowl games between your ticket, your flight, because you're not booking flights 6 months in advance, like a lot of occasions. You're booking them weeks in advance, and they're typically a lot more expensive around the holiday time. So when you consider all those factors, when you were just in a bowl game last year, it's I'm not shedding out that money to go again. We were just there last year. And I think that will go into consideration. I said it, if there was any chance we made the Citrus Bowl, we were just in the Citrus Bowl not long ago. We went, it was a great time. I'm not looking to go back again this year. It's just not enough time in between. So I think that vibes well for the Rose Bowl as well.
I think actually before we started, the Athletic is reporting that sources in the Tournament of Roses are saying that they are considering taking Penn State because of that factor. So, and I do think there's a benefit and then a potential drawback too. So, like you said, Ohio State was just there last year. There's the possibility that it could be against Utah again. Utah is obviously playing for the Pac-12 championship game. If they win, actually no, scratch that, because if they win, USC will go to the Rose Bowl. If they lose, they may still get there. Washington might hop them, but then that's the counterpoint. We just played Washington in the Fiesta Bowl, 3 years ago. So yeah, that could potentially work in our favor one way or another. But it seems like we might be picking up steam for the Rose Bowl. So tickets are $165 now in case anyone's interested. Not that I was looking, but
Take the chance.
But Matt, it's a game not at Beaver Stadium. You wouldn't go to that.
the weather's warm, so
He's going with me. Well, you two sit at home.
last,
Matt and I are going.
Last time he traveled with us to a game, he had his mask shade on, yelling at us for being too loud because he wanted to go to bed in Orlando.
Yeah, your uncle and I were singing in the hotel room till like 3 a.m.
That's why we lost. So that's why we lost. Yeah, that's why we lost.
It wasn't because Trent's uncle and I started a conga line at like midnight on New Year's Eve. That wasn't the reason why we lost.
That's definitely why. So let me ask this, and then we'll move on to last call and all that stuff. Would you prefer to go to the Cotton Bowl, play a weaker opponent, a group of 5, and win and get 11 wins, or would you prefer to go to the Rose Bowl, play a tougher opponent and lose?
I mean, if it had to be one of those two, I'm probably honestly going with the Cotton Bowl this year, just to keep building on that momentum going into next season. The season's been on such a high note to end the season. I would hate to punctuate that with a loss to end the year. So in those, but let's forget about that. How about we just go to the Rose Bowl and win it?
Well, that's what I'd like. I think if it was Cotton Bowl or Orange Bowl, I would side with you. But I think there's just something about the Rose Bowl. Like you think back, like people still now kind of look fondly back at that 2016 game, even though it was a heartbreaking loss. Like it's just something about the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, but that was like considered to be like one of the best top 10 college football games of all time. Like it was just an unreal football game. So I think that's part of that one.
Yeah, but if you go and you're competitive and all that kind of stuff, like I think it could still kind of carry that momentum forward. But I'm just throwing it out there for food for thought. So
we'll find out this weekend.
Yep.
So
we'll find
our next episode. We'll either have roses in her mouth or balls of cotton. So,
but not grapes. Not grapes.
No grapes.
Quick timeline. I had Kyle didn't eat any grapes this year. We're going to New Year's Six Bowl, so it's kind of like the butterfly effect. So you guys are welcome.
We still lost 2 games. So
it's not a perfect science.
Next year, this upcoming year is not going to eat grapes the whole year. We're going to start
Kyle,
January 2023.
Maybe you not eating grapes caused our 2 losses. Maybe if you ate them, we'd be in the playoffs.
No, I think Whinney's right. I think I had grapes at the beginning of 22. They had to give me a little bit of a.
Did you have any peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Because if you did, then that kind of shoots your whole theory in the ass.
Oh, you were drinking. You were drinking wine too.
See?
I saw. Yeah.
See, that's what happened. All right, math boy. Well, let's go.
Talking about games this weekend, Koko. What's the Penn State spread?
Yeah, don't have that, Trent, because we're not in a conference.
Not prepared.
Yeah, not prepared for that Big Ten championship game between Purdue and Michigan that everyone's looking forward to. I bet. But before we get into that, all those games, quick recap here. Last week, Whinney and I both went 4-2. Matt and Trent went 2-4. So for the season standings,
I don't trust his math anymore. So
that's all right.
I tune out when he does this.
That's right. Matt's in 3rd place anyway. I won't even read it. We're as an aggregate, we're 173, 131, and 8. I'm in 1st. Whinney's in 2nd. Matt's in 3rd. Trent's in 4th. So. One more week here to get those scores up.
It's kind of like March Madness, where the people that know the most about basketball are the ones that overthink it, and then the people that just pick based on color are the ones that win the pool. So that's kind of what's happening right now.
I think there's just a lot of jealousy of how correct I've been this year on things. Like showing up to the games, the fade Whinney concept went out the window after week 3.
Who would have thought if you go to more games, you know more about football and you pick better spreads? I would have thought.
If it was just Kyle, I'd be on board. But the fact that Whinney's up there, I'm with Matt on this one. I mean, he doesn't even know half these teams mascots, and he's out here
Hey,
picking
I think there's
picking
just
overs and unders.
How about the
Koko.
fact
It
that
just comes down to people, who think they know football, and then people who know football.
you know what's funny? Winnie, I wouldn't even know who's playing this weekend, but I know there's 3 over unders, and I already put Winnie taking the over on them. Winnie, is that correct?
We'll find out. I'd have to.
All right, let's find out.
Yeah, he needs
Let's
to find out what their primary colors are first before.
I want to see their average on the
Yeah.
year. That's what I like to determine.
All right, let's get on that here.
Consistency is key, Kyle. Consistency is key. Don't forget it.
All right, whatever you say, buddy. First one here, Friday night Pac-12 championship, Utah and USC. USC's favored by 2. When he lead that off.
Go with USC.
Any reason why, or just because?
Part of it's because of Jeff Savant, but I don't like to name drop Jeff for too much. But yeah, Jeff was talking smack about it, so I hope it's USC and ourselves in the Rose Bowl. So
You realize if USC wins, then they can't be Penn State USC in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, you don't want
Nick.
USC. No, if USC wins, they're in the playoff, buddy.
Oh, you're right.
Oh my gosh!
I'm
See, this
is
I went off. I went off Jeff's.
He's in second place.
Yeah.
Do you want Utah? Do you want Utah instead, or you still want USC?
I'll go with USC.
I'm not pulling your leg there. If you,
he's in second place. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Trent.
My picks this week are not what I think is going to happen. It's what I want to happen for us. So, give me Utah.
Matt.
USC. I think other than us, probably USC is playing the best football of anyone in the country right now. Caleb Williams probably going to win the Heisman. So,
I'm thinking that's play. I'm just hoping that Caleb Williams chokes and Utah wins, and maybe that Max Duggan from TCU wins it, because I think it's just be funny. Just be one of those funny factors. So I'm gonna take Utah here. We got over under in the Big 12 championship between Kansas State and undefeated TCU. TCU wins there in the playoff here. If they lose, maybe chaos will ensue. But Matt, what do you got for that game? The over under 62, and it's a pick 'em right now. I think I saw TCU by 2 right now.
I'm going under. The last time these two teams played, Taylor Martinez for Kansas State didn't play, so I think with him back, Kansas State's going to run the ball a lot more. So produces a lower scoring game.
If you'd listened to some podcasts today, you would have known that the Kansas State quarterback Martinez he's available, but he's going to be not starting. It's going to be there.
Well, I still go under.
So going Thunder. Winnie?
Yeah,
you already know. I'm taking the over.
Yeah, that's right. It's already on there.
How would that fact not help Matt's argument?
Yeah, I was gonna say it seemed like that would actually help.
No, Kansas State has been scoring more points with their other quarterback than with Taylor Martinez, because with Taylor Martinez, they're one-dimensional run team pretty much.
Well, I'm still going under.
Brent?
Yeah, I a lot of points, but these championship games I feel like are shootouts, especially the Big 12. So I'm going to go with the over.
Over. I'm going over as well. I think it's going to be a weird Big 12 shootout, like Trent said. All right, let's get this one over with. This is a SEC championship between LSU and Georgia. Georgia is favored by a modest 17.5. Trent, will lead us off for that one?
Yeah, I think LSU covers here. That's a lot of points in a championship game, especially when you're playing someone that's not a Big Ten West opponent. So I think LSU covers here. And honestly, I think Georgia and Michigan are two teams where even if they lose this weekend, it doesn't matter. So not that they're going to lose, but I could see them getting caught sleeping just a hair, because the game doesn't mean as much to them with their opponents.
I agree with that. Same methodology. I'm going LSU to cover. Georgia hasn't looked that great, except for this week against Georgia Tech. Well, the first half they were a little sleepwalky, but 2 weeks before that they didn't look too great. So I'm gonna take LSU to cover, but I think it's one of those games where Georgia handles the whole game. Feels like there's no chance of losing, but LSU still covers it. Matt?
Same thing could probably be said about TCU too. Honestly, they could probably lose and get in at this point with everything else that's going on. But yeah, LSU to cover.
But
are you confident that if TCU loses?
Yeah, I agree.
No.
They could and probably get in, but they're not a lock. I feel like Michigan could lose, they're still a lock.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Georgia could lose, they're still a lock. TCU, if they lose, that's where that
Yeah.
Ohio State sitting there.
Yeah, it depends on how they lose, but yeah,
You'll
this
see
game
the-
LSU covers.
Whinney.
I'm kind of back and forth. I kind of was agreeing with what Trent was saying. I mean, some of the teams that Georgia played early on, I mean, not even early on. Look at Tennessee and you look at Kentucky. I mean, those were closer than I thought they would be. I think like Trent said, it's a lot of points. And although I'm not a huge LSU guy, I think that they'll keep it closer than the 17.5. So I'm going to go with LSU.
I thought you were a big LSU
Yeah,
guy
I was gonna say.
this whole time.
No,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
big
me-
Tennessee
Closet-
guy. I'm a big
closet
Tennessee
LSU
guy.
fan.
Yeah,
You had
Tennessee.
me fooled.
I've been rooting for
I'm glad
Tennessee.
glad you clarified that for the listeners out there. You're
Well,
not a big LSU guy. Good to know.
There's teams you like. They're not one of mine.
Got the next one here for the American Athletic Conference Championship. Winner of this game, we could be seeing in the Cotton Bowl, possibly. It's between UCF and Tulane. Over under for that game is 57. Tulane is favored by a field goal, I believe. I saw. Whinney, I have it over for you right now, but if you want to change that, I can.
Let it sit.
Let's Matt,
Over.
Trent.
Can't we pick the spread instead?
No.
Okay, I'll take the under. I just hate UCF ever since they declared themselves national championship.
Under for that. Actually, that spread moved up to 4 if that makes a difference. But over, under. I'll go over. What the hell? I want to see
boy.
I want to see points this weekend. Just sit on your couch and just watch teams score touchdowns. This is going to be an ugly game between Purdue and Michigan. Michigan is favored by 16.5 against that mighty Big Ten West team that somehow managed to win that. Purdue managed to win the Big Ten West. That was a cluster F for the past few weeks, but Michigan's favored 16.5 in this one. Whinney, what do you got?
I think Michigan. I mean, I don't see how they wouldn't walk all over them. So I'm gonna just give it to them.
I think Purdue, similar to the Georgia game, I think Purdue covers somehow. I think Michigan's going to lay off the gas a little bit because they're, like as Trent said, they're in the playoff already, win or lose. I think Purdue covers, but Michigan wins.
I think the opposite, though. I feel like with the coaching they have, I feel like they wouldn't let up. I mean, in my opinion, that they're going to continue to push on just because they keep that momentum going into the playoff.
That's true.
Yeah. So you could insert what I said here for that Georgia game. I do feel like one of these two teams is going to get caught sleeping, not lose, but it's a lot of points to give up. And I do think one of these two teams is not going to cover. I think LSU is a much better team than Purdue. So that being said, I'm going to take Michigan to cover because I can't see both of these teams coming out sloppy and neither one covering.
And make good for good TV ratings, though. If all these games are close. Maybe Fox wants that to happen. Maybe they're like Michigan, don't like beat this team by 40, which they just might.
Okay, take off your tinfoil hat. I think Michigan's gonna cover, but I wouldn't be surprised if Purdue, kept it close. Like it's just, it's a championship game. But I think, Michigan steamrolled last year too, so expecting the same.
And last one here, ACC championship, Clemson, North Carolina. Over under for that game is 63.5. Whinney, again, I have you for an over here, but keep it.
Keep it.
Does anyone
Kyle.
care? Does
Points
anyone care about this game at all?
Nope. I'll still watch it though.
Well, yeah.
You got the TV sport. You might as well.
I'm still holding out for my Drake May Heisman ticket, although I don't think that's gonna happen. But I think this is an under. Like Clemson's offense has struggled to score all year long. North Carolina's offense has been grounded to a halt these last 2 weeks. Like they lose on the road, they lose at home to Georgia Tech. They lose on the road to North Carolina State. Like I watched that game on Friday. They did not look good. So and Clemson's defense is pretty stout. So I think under.
Trent.
Yeah, ACC sucks as always. If Clemson's not in the playoffs, then they're irrelevant. No one cares about them. Just want to throw that out there. But I'll take the over in this game.
Over for Trent. I'm going to go with what Matt said. North Carolina. This over is making on North Carolina to be the offense they were the first half of the season, and these last 2 games they've been struggling a bit. So I'm going to take the under for this one. And that's all we got there.
That's it. All right, let's do rapid fire. Last call. We're not getting this under an hour, but as close as we can. Koko, go.
Well, I kind of already said mine with the transfer stuff.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, Whinney's. Oh yeah,
I'll think of
Whinney
another
did
one if
too. No, that's all
I
right.
came up with another one actually, so you
All
can
right,
go
then
though.
Quick.
So bowl game, real quick, I forget what the yards is. I think it's 220 something between Singleton and Allen. Do you think we can get them both at 1,000 yards rushing?
Matchup dependent, but I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, because I'm just looking. Singleton's at 941, Allen's at 830. So Allen's gonna need 170.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
But they're both over 1,000 all purpose, so we can still tout that. So
That's fair.
Agree.
what do you got, Trent?
Me. All right. So we're gonna finish the season top 10. Looking like possibly a New Year's Six bowl game win here. Where do you see us ranked preseason next year? Within the top 7 or outside the top 7, and where in there?
I think 7's a good ranking, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say
7
right
or
at
8.
7.
7, 8.
Probably.
So 7, I'd say, is in the top 7.
Yeah, I would probably say in the top 7.
No, screw it. We're gonna
Yeah.
be top 5 next year. Optimistic, positive vibes only.
I knew top 5 would be a stretch. So, and top 10, I think, was also a gimme.
That's a
So I
gimme.
think that 7 range was a good number.
7 and a hook.
MT.
All right. All right. Well, I was going to give you 3 options for this one, but Joey Porter kind of ruined that a little bit. More likely to come back for next season, Parker Washington or Brenton Strange?
Joey Porter.
Should have said most likely to declare and then not say that we did the episode after he announced and look like we're geniuses.
Yeah, we all would have said Joey Porter.
I would say
Hey.
Parker's more likely to come back because I feel like he would have more to prove than Brenton Strange this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Parker's more likely to come back as well.
I agree. I think Strange with Theo, potentially being healthy, starting off the season, everything, and then Tyler Warren climbing, like Kyle said. I think it'll be hard for him, to move up and get his draft stock higher. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did come back, just kind of with belief of the team and everything, like I was saying before. I wouldn't be surprised if they both return. I think there's a good chance of that.
Both of these guys are borderline. Like, I wouldn't be surprised either way with either guy.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on. I don't even know. I was gonna say, I guess it would depend on who we would come up. Young guys coming up and everything. If Strange feels threatened, like his reps would be reduced as well. Because I mean, they ran a lot of 2 tight end and even 3 tight end sets this year.
Yeah, I think I would pick Washington just because of the injury, like not knowing the full extent, like that could, especially because he didn't have the breakout year. I think that everybody hoped. I think that would play in. But all right, anything else? I think we good. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with these conference championship games. We'll see what happens with Selection Sunday, and
I hope chaos just happens. I'm just hoping for chaos this weekend because I want to see the selection committee pick between like Ohio State and Alabama. They're 2 like prize babies.
Hey, let's get mad upset here, Kyle. There's another big sporting event on Saturday.
Oh yeah, World Cup Saturday morning.
Yeah, shout out to Team USA. We're not big soccer guys here, so let's not pretend like we are. But
Netherlands is still going down.
Who is John God? John God's a big soccer guy.
But
Matt just hates America.
Oh,
Matt hates America. Doesn't cheer for the U.S. on the world stage.
I'm always going to cheer for America. We eliminated Iran. No surprise there. Let's go Team USA.
Netherlands.
I don't know I don't know the rules. I don't understand it. It's not that interesting, but you know what? The World Cup, it's fun to cheer for your country. So
yeah. I mean, I hope USA wins, but I'm not going to waste a second of my time. 15 million viewers for England versus USA, 17 million viewers for Michigan versus Ohio State. So that just tells you what's really important. So, all right, until next time, we are Tailgate Talk. Let's see where we end up.
That was a good episode.